demonic angel, and today I'm going to talk about my experiences with one of my patron demons, President Marbas, the fifth spirit of the Lesser Key of Solomon. So I briefly here, I did my first ritual for Marbas when I was in my early 20s. I was struggling with underneath some of the trauma and my drinking. I obviously realized that part of my problems was the way that I was responding to my anxiety, and I didn't know how to change that, and how, like, I realized I wasn't healthy physically, and so I drew a sigil, and nothing too powerful really happened, but that is common with people who are unwell, because the healthier you are, the easier it is to master yourself and have magic work better. So, but I did, throughout the years, I've gone back to him and done more complicated rituals. My interest in high magic grew, and I've just been really, really drawn to him. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about him, and then in the next video I'm going to actually show you the sigil I draw for him and show you some of my offerings, and I'm gonna do a little walkthrough with you guys while I draw a sigil. I'm not good at drawing, so you're gonna have to forgive me on that, but that way you could see how I incorporate some mantras into this, and it's just an example, and you could apply it to any spirit, God, saint, but it is an example of focusing your attention on them, because that's what they ultimately get, is energy from working with us mortals. So Marbas, obviously, one of the main planet he's associated with is Mercury, and Mercury has to do with communication. It's what us and people in the pagan community joke about when it's Mercury retrograde. It's not my fault. You're revisiting the past, and technology fucks up. So that's the joke. But obviously, when Mercury is moving forward, and there's a purpose for retrograde as well, that this is all about communication. So I decided to honor President Marbas by making these couple of videos for him at least. I'm not afraid to revisit this in the future if I think that it needs to be. But I wanted to, as my relationship with him grew, I decided I'm going to put him here on YouTube and talk about my experiences with him, talk about him and what he has done for me, because this is my way of honoring him and honoring a part of my personal relationship. I almost prefer that over pact, because it just seems to me more natural. So one of the things that he's done for me is, as a hereditary witch, when I was younger, I would see dead people who often look like they're decomposing or they're still stuck in their death state. And this terrified me, grossed me out, and contributed to my neurosis and a sense of depression. But the more I've worked with Marbas, and obviously I still communicate with the dead on the astral plane, and they do depending on their psychological states, and they still look dead. But now I look at it and I'm fascinated, like what is wrong, like what is wrong with their energy? Wow, how did they get like that? And at first I thought that, you know, the feelings of shame of being interested in death, I suppose, were there. But obviously the opposite of that is learning that I'm truly interested in life. I'm interested in, you know, I know herbs and techniques to help with circulation, anxiety, depression, sleep, memory. My memory is really improved with my subconscious memory. So now this extensive knowledge of herbs I have, I could just pull it out, apply it, mix it together. So he really is, I mean, obviously if you want to curse somebody with Marbas, he's going to speed up the aging process essentially for them. Because, and he's, you know, if he chooses to be on your side, because that's what he does. He knows how to break down the systems of the body. He's interested in death, decay, memory loss, because that's essentially what aging is. But if you have this personal relationship with him, he could slow that down a little bit. He can help you incorporate your own health practices so that you can, you know, retain some vitality. And when we all feed off each other, and the dead can use that energy better, take it into your own self for your own benefit, and leave out the stuff that isn't good for you. So that's really the way I view it now. I'm like, this is fascinating. And also, I'm not that dead person. I am interested in helping them, but I go and I do most commonly a ritual salt bath to separate myself, ground myself. But I'm not afraid of my interest in this as well either. And the more I've learned, the more I know how to help living people, like my friends, family. I have really turned people on to some things I'm sure wouldn't have thought about. And it's really, instead of taking just herbs and thinking about it, taking it, putting it into practice. He's also associated with Jupiter, so that's his secondary planet. And Jupiter, as many of you probably know, is an authority figure. So if you just want to mess around, obviously the occult isn't for you anyway. But he is all about getting your shit together, getting your health together, and being serious about it. And even if you think that you're a healthy person, there's obviously always room for improvement. So he will, if you have an attachment to him and he has one to you, he will let you know if he's unhappy with the choices that you're making. It's not subtle, and you will suffer. I mean, that's the other thing too. Let's say you start making unhealthy choices. He makes things a little bit more black and white, so you can see like, hey, this is not a healthy practice I'm doing, and then you suffer the effects. Like when you think about something and it takes a while for it to sort of descend into physical reality and be real, that speeds up. So it doesn't take as long, and you suffer from that because you're either getting healthier or you're not as far as your focus. Of course, you have room for your own personal development, which sometimes involves involves being a little bit lost in yourself from time to time, but I'm talking about in more of these bigger ways. And yeah, okay, so his name, as I guess I forgot to mention, in Latin means hellebore, and hellebore is a plant that's associated with witchcraft. So, you know, if you're interested in this kind of stuff and you learn about herbs, this Marbas will help you implement them, from cooking to, you know what's right. You know what needs to be done better, and you can turn to herbs more often. Like I think I mentioned in a previous video, let's say that you have severe anxiety and you take Xanax. That's good, you're going to the doctor. Marbas, understand, he's a surgeon of hell. He wants you to go to the doctor. But obviously they don't tell you that, hey, these are benzodiazepines and you can have some severe withdrawals, and they're not going to usually taper you off or explain these things to normal people. You just get to find that out one day when you don't go back, okay? Or you get a different doctor, or whatever the case is, and you know. So that's severe side effects, and obviously, yeah, people going through withdrawals can really exacerbate their mental problems and such. So here is valerian root instead. It's nature's Xanax, and by taking that instead, it is going to sedate you and make you calm. But now when you run out of valerian root, you're going to be okay, and you're not going to have this complete side trip into withdrawals. So it's taking those types of things and incorporating them just a little bit more so that you can understand that sometimes herbal medicine is best. Don't forget it. Incorporate it, you know, as much as possible. So that is what Marbas has really gotten me to do for myself, because he is definitely always with me. He's one of the most common, or the most prominent spirits that I interact with. So, yeah. Like, for example, as well, I was, you know, having my period pains and just leg cramps in general, or whatever, a headache. I think for me at least, I'm sure for many people, there's this tendency to go, well, hey, I'm going to just go take some ibuprofen. Oh my gosh, I got a headache again. I'm PMSing. Time for some more ibuprofen. It was like, I want to say maybe 6 months ago, and I went to go do that because it was just this habitual thing without. I mean, I know that you shouldn't do it. I've always known that, unless you need it, of course. But this black figure, Marbas, came out of almost like my peripheral in my mind and yelled, "Hey!" but in a masculine, deep voice. Scared me really bad. I mean, I was like, and I jumped. And I went to just go sit down, and I didn't take it. I left the medicine cabinet, and I came to sit down. So, and then I was like, oh my gosh. And I knew he popped into my mind right away. I was like, you know what? There's better anti-inflammatories out there. So there's garlic and turmeric. And those types of things will do the job that I'm, the anti-inflammatory. And I can take this when I have a fever, let's say, or I really need it, but I really just need to stop going, hey, got a little headache, or I don't feel very good, so I'm just going to take this because it's hurting my body in some subtle way. And it's definitely aging me because of, obviously, the chemicals that are in those types of things. So he doesn't mess around. He's done me so much good. So I just wanted to share that. And then one of the times I was doing a ritual for him, I also like rune magic, and I drew a rune. I drew Jera, so the cycles of life, and I thought about that for a while, and then I obviously was realizing that, you know, his metal is tin, and that's got to do with rejuvenation and the sacral chakra, grounding, and like the cycles and the seasons of life, like decomposition and the breakdown of us people, mortals. So I was like, oh yeah, this really does actually make sense. And I think that that's why he likes working with me. And it's not just working with me, but he's one of the few spirits that are always with me. He's with me when I'm performing magic, so that if I'm talking to something, he's filtering some of this information for me, and along with others as well. But just, he really helps keep me grounded and healthy. So, and reminding me to do the grounding techniques after ceremonies. So I really think that because I remember my last life, that he's really fascinated. That's like the how can I put it? It's the sense I get from him, that he really wants to be around me because I remember it, and most people don't. There are a lot of us that do, but most people don't. And so he knows that I consciously know a lot of my deepest inner issues, and I've been through the neuroses of my last life and this one, but I found value in them, and I'm ready for the changing of the seasons. I'm not ashamed or afraid. I understand that I've got to live now, and I find value here in this moment because it's so rich, and so that I can strengthen myself in my next incarnation, because I meant to be here to help other people and evolve myself. And so that's just like what I get from him, and I think ultimately he doesn't understand like how I remember it, and I think me and him have that in common. I don't fully. I mean, I remember some practices I've had in my last life, but it's still an element of curiosity and openness to why I remember this so fully. So, yeah, I really recommend Marbas for beginners in the Goetia, because he's a really, there's not many things more important than getting healthy and grounded, ultimately. There's the Goetia spirits of necromancy and, manipulation, and he can help people shapeshift. And that's essentially, to me, means that he's going to make, if you're doing things that are unhealthy, it becomes more apparent to you. Very, very, there's not that, you lose the element of illusion. If you're doing good things, you can reap from that, benefit from that energy, and continue to better yourself, and you keep climbing the mountain of self-evolution. But that's a good thing. So I'm definitely saying I recommend him if you're starting out, because your health is important. And I I am definitely just going to say really quick, I'm not recommending you don't go to the doctor, or I'm not saying that medications that you get from the doctor are bad. I think you should go to the doctor, and ultimately so does Marbas. But be aware of what are your own thoughts on your health and situation. Do you think there's other things you could do? Are you exercising? Are you spending time alone to just think? That's because if not, that's not very healthy. Everybody needs 10 minutes to go sit by themselves and think. What do you think that you need to do to make yourself healthier? And that'll come together with traditional medicine of going to a Western doctor, so that you can take control. Because ultimately, that's what black magic and working with the demons of the Goetia is about. Looking at things a different way, thinking in different ways that other people might be afraid of. But don't be afraid of this evolution that's personal. So I hope that helps. Links to my Twitter and Patreon will be below. I'm really happy to see my channel growing, and I even had a comment requesting a video on like me doing a tarot spread. So I think in definitely a few videos I'll just do like a reading as if I was doing it for a client. But my next video I am going to show some of my offerings, and I'll draw a sigil and do some things like repeat a mantra. While I share some personal experience of ritual working with Marbas, and then I'll continue on the journey of tarot, and then pretty soon I'm going to show you guys this spirit, that his human spirit, and he has been really in my dreams a lot lately, and I'll talk about him. So thank you guys so much for checking out my channel and helping it grow. It's really awesome to me, actually. So I'll see you guys in the next video.